You've selected the right show to listen to in order to become the best salesperson you can be. We literally listen to actual in-home sales presentations of salesmen at all different levels to show you precisely how to close more deals and what to avoid. I'm your host, Alex Mark. I built a sales-based home improvement company from $0 to $20 million in 2 years and then sold it to private equity. And I'm here to help you become the best salesperson you can be and put more money in your pocket. All right, live from LeadsCon 2024 in Cleveland, Ohio, we are back with another episode of the First Call Closer podcast. To my left, or rather in front of me to my left today, is TJ Parsons. Now, TJ has been in the home improvement industry for over 15 years, growing and building sales team after sales team for companies small to all the way, I believe you said $200 million a year.
Yes.
Companies building divisions from scratch. So very excited to have you here today as our guest coach. And now over in front of me to my right, here is Ryan Hartzell. Now Ryan has been in sales for about 3 years now. Before that was actually in the restaurant industry, which before this we were talking about. I don't think there's anything you could get me to do. You get me to do anything but the restaurant business. Yeah. I can't imagine that. But he's moved over now to being a professional sales rep for, I believe, Window and Bath Depot, correct? So in this year so far, 2024, he sold just over $1 million in net sales. So just under 1.1.
That's right.
We'll get over that, I'm sure, in the next week or so, with a 38% net close rate. Now, on that piece, for those of you that have listened to these podcasts before, that may seem like a little bit lower close rate than what we've heard on some before. But one thing we have to keep in mind is the industry that we're selling in. Now, bath and windows at 38% close rate is actually really stinking good, right? TJ, would you agree with that? That's a high close rate. So definitely amazing job there. 38% year to date and a $4,348 NSLI. So every lead you're going to, you're bringing back $4,000 plus for the company. That's incredible. I think that's to date of the companies we have on, that is the record NSLI.
Right.
So
wow,
yeah,
I'll take it.
Congratulations. Awesome. But yeah, no, thank you both for being here. We're gonna dive into the recording here in just a short minute or two here. But I always start off with a question for both of you. Sure. So TJ, for you, having hired, trained, maybe hundreds of reps at this point over the years for different companies, what is the number one thing you look for when you're hiring him that tells you this person will be successful in sales? I want to hire him.
I think it's the drive to learn and get better. If I can sense that person has the fire and the passion within themselves to work and to put the effort in to learn this, I feel like anybody can do it. I think I've built a system around, building around the everyman, that anybody could learn this system and perform at a high level. So as long as they have the drive to get good at it, then they're going to succeed.
They just have to put the effort in to do it, have the drive to do it. Yeah, awesome. Now on the other side of that, Ryan, somebody who is a successful seller, right? 38% close rate in this industry, undeniably successful. What is the number one thing you would say has made you successful to where you're going in the homes, bringing back over $4,000 every time you step into a home?
Yeah, I mean, just thirst for knowledge. I just always want to know more, learn more. I'm constantly wanting to grow and not getting stagnant or complacent.
Yeah.
It's that drive.
Yeah.
That drive to learn more and be on podcasts like this, right? And be able to put yourself out there, send a bunch of recordings to a random stranger and say, hey, take a listen to those and tell me what I can do better. So
exactly.
No, that's awesome. Appreciate that. So today, just for you guys, if you haven't listened to it, or for those out there that maybe this is their first episode, what we do on the First Call Closer podcast is we break each recording that we have from Rilla into 3 sections. We're going to look at the company story, building value, and then our price presentation. Now, there's obviously a lot more steps to a successful sale, but we'd be here a long time. This would be a 6-hour-long podcast if we broke out everything. So we just look at those key areas to kind of pull from and pull some context from for some coachable moments in there. So we're going to listen to some really good things, some bad things, and maybe some ugly things out there that we can learn from as well. Before we dive into the recording, the voices have been changed. So if you listen back to this later, Ryan, you might say that doesn't sound like me, but that's just for the privacy of the customers out there, of course. So all of that's been changed. So it looks like this appointment was a 2 hour and 59-minute long appointment. Another record, actually, for the podcast for longest appointment. Not saying that's a bad thing. And I think there was a study Rilla just put out that if you're in the home more than 2 hours, I don't remember the exact statistic, but it's a higher probability you have to sell once you hit over that 2 hour mark.
I believe that.
So would you say that's an average appointment for you? Is about that 2-3 hour mark?
No, it just depends on like how much needs to be gone over. You know, a lot of times I'll let the customer kind of depict on how long that appointment's going to run. You know,
Definitely.
you know, if they need more information, they have a lot of questions, they want to talk a lot, I'm going to let them. You know, I'm just going to sit back and get comfortable and kind of let them guide that length of that. You know,
Right.
So, but I mean, for on average for me, hour and a half, I would say.
Sure.
And then
Okay.
more from there.
And TJ, what would you recommend, when you're talking to these reps and going through training? Do you give them a guideline of here's how long you should be in the home doing this? I mean, obviously it's not 30 minutes and it's not
Right.
6 hours. So is there
That's
some
12.
Tw-
Yeah, the whole day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just camp there, stay there. Eventually they're going to buy.
Yeah, they can't say no if you never leave. Right. Yeah. No, I have always been a believer that about an hour and a half is the sweet spot. Obviously, you're going to have tons of opportunities where it's going to go longer. You have a connection with someone, that you have great conversation. But I think if you were to go start to finish, an hour 15, hour and a half is probably the sweet spot.
Sweet spot for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, awesome. Now, the next piece, right before we get into listening to the recording, I always like to look at the talk ratio, pretty important factor. I think the last episode we had, it was a 90% talk ratio on the sales rep. Yours, you fared much better, 66% the time you were talking, and 34% of the time the husband and wife were talking.
Very nice.
Is that kind of where you'd recommend people being, TJ, or what's kind of the thought there?
Yeah, and again, it's very situational, but yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so about that 60-40 or 70-30 type of split is
Right.
what you're looking for. All right, so we're going to dive into the Rilla recording now. The first hour and a half of the appointment, so good chunk of it, was spent a lot of time building rapport, designing out. And while that doesn't really fit into the scope of what we talk about here, there's a few key points I wanted to hit on that really stood out to me that I thought you did a really great job with in that. And I didn't want to have those go away and not be able to talk about them, even though they didn't fit into our mold. So let me dive into those and pull that up here, and we'll take a listen.
I have, yeah. I'll share any concern I have with you. Absolutely. I want you to be happy with this one.
Right.
I don't want you to be sit you look at it like, why the heck did we do this? You know what I mean? I want you to call me and like, this is great. I'm happy.
Gotcha.
That's my preference. That's why I like to clarify all the little things that I know that drive some people crazy.
Okay.
Okay.
So the reason I point that out or pull that clip out there is I think you did a really great job. This was about 25 minutes or so into the appointment of just setting the tone of you're there to take care of them.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
If there are any concerns I have, I'll share them with you. If there's anything I see that stands out to me, I'll let you know. And I don't remember if I pulled this specific clip, but there was one point in here that they were choosing a design option that I think you thought was going to look bad. Like it sounded also just from the audio that it was going to look bad. And you said it in a very friendly way to them that I like the color, but I don't think it's right for this room and the floor you have here. How important do you think it is gaining that trust early on?
I think it's extremely important, man. I want people to know that, like, I'm not here just to sell you something. Like, I want them to be happy with what we did for years to come. I want them, when it's done, to look at this and just be like, that's it. Like, that's what I wanted out of this project, instead of just selling them something and then they come in and they're just like, yeah, it's okay. I don't want that. I want that like 5-star review. I want that 5-star feeling from the customer, and I want them to know that. That's why I'm here. Here to make you happy. I'm here to make this project be complete the way you're just like, thank you. When it's all done. So.
And the only way to do that is to truly have their concerns at heart.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
give them a solution that is not only maybe what they think they want, but what they need, and is going to be a good solution for them. Does that go into the training that you teach them, TJ?
Absolutely. A phrase that we like to use a lot is that we are here to earn your business. And it's not, I know a lot of companies think that just because they drove out to your home, that they made the effort to come over there, that you are obligated to buy from them. And that's never the way that we approach it. We want to do whatever it takes to make you happy. And, a tool that we use is we'll try to establish what's called a roadmap to the sale, where we will say, what are the things that matter the most to you? And, specifically on a bathroom lead, for example, we know the things that we want to get, right? We want them to say, we want a low maintenance shower. We want a reputable company. We want a quality product, all the things that we know we can provide. And then also any other small things like, we'd like a grab bar or some storage or something. And then we kind of tee that up with like, hey, my goal today is to try to earn perfect 10s on every single thing. Because if you find a company that gives you 10 out of 10 on everything, that's who you're going to hire. Right. And then they're like, oh, of course. Right. And then you're like, okay, well, I'll do my best for you. But it's all about earning that business.
Yeah, I think it comes off very genuine, right? And it doesn't come off like you're that sleazy salesman that's in there following a script, going A, B, C, always be closing in there. Obviously, that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to close the deal on the first call. But I think in today's world, that approach is what works, is having that caring mentality and having their concerns at heart and giving them a solution.
We've always called it like taking an advisor's position. Where you're there, instead of selling, you're taking the stance of advising them on what the project should be.
Oh, being more of an authority. Yeah,
Yes.
you're not selling them. You're an authority in it. Which brings me to a question. I think you talked about it in one point here. You guys don't represent, when you're in the home and even in your email signature, I saw you're not a sales rep or a design consultant. You're a project manager. Which confused me at first. I'm like, I don't think we want a project manager on this, because in the traditional sense in home improvement, that's not what you think of as a project manager. If either one of you want to chime in, tell me about that kind of thought process and mentality behind project manager versus design consultant. What's the reasoning?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're doing the design consulting thing, but just like giving them the peace of mind to know that like I'm your contact person from this point moving forward.
Oh, unique.
So
Okay.
I tell everybody that, at the sale or even during a presentation, like I'll be your point of contact from this point moving forward, before, during, after. That way they don't have to wonder who they have to call. We're dealing with multiple people. Let them know like we're working on everything for you behind the scenes, getting all this done to make sure the project is completed for you and the way you want it to be done. So
Yeah, there's too many companies that do that kind of awkward handoff, right? Like the sales rep finishes the sale and then they pass them to someone else, and then you never talk to the sales rep
Never
ever
hear from them
again.
They're gone.
Yeah, the difference here is that they are with them from beginning to end, even going out to the install to watch the install be performed. So they're the whole time. Yeah.
Wow, very cool.
yeah, can't get out to all of them, but
Yeah.
try to get out to as many as I can. There are some that you need to get out to, though, at least for the first day, to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And then, I think it gives them just a good feeling that I'm showing up at least for a first portion of the installation, that I'm here to make sure everything went your way, and then just gives them a comfort level of,
even if you're showing up for 1 minute, that's more than 99% of other companies do. And that, I'm sure, brings in their head and gives you a chance to earn a referral from that, right?
Absolutely.
Because
100%.
he actually showed up for the install. Like, he didn't just sell it to me. Like, can you believe that?
Which about 40% of their yearly business comes off of referrals.
40%.
And that
That's
seems
incredible.
insane, but
Yeah.
it's real. Like they do so much business. And I think that's a huge part of it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, that's
repeat
awesome.
customers, referrals, big part.
Yeah. Well, this next quick little clip before we get into our main sections, I'll just play it and then I'll ask my question.
You want water, Ryan?
Yeah, there's water. There's,
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
I meant to ask you before. Yeah, it's in a crisper. Unless you want a beer. We have a whole fridge down here. What do it be?
So I bring this up because I was having a conversation actually with a rep recently that was struggling a little bit and just trying to dissect the appointment, go over every little detail. And one of the things that stood out or that happened is they offered them a soda or water or something like that. And they say, oh yeah, I never take that. I bring my own water in. I'm curious
weird.
how and what your guys' thoughts are. And when somebody offers you something in the home, do you take it? Do you not take it? Is there more thought that should be played into that than just yes or no?
100% of the time you take it.
Why?
100% of the time.
Why?
Because they're being gracious. They're offering you something, and it's I don't know. It's a little uncomfortable. If someone's like, "Hey, can I get you something?" No, I brought my own. That's weird. Well, who brings their own stuff to someone's house? That's a little strange. I don't get that.
Yeah, I think it's also you're building some of that trust, right? Like they
Right.
got something for you, and you're getting that same level or that rapport building even. So
Now, if they're offering you like a beer or something like that, then that's where you can be like, "Could I have a water instead?" Something like that.
Right. Oh, I'd love to, but yeah,
Right.
on the clock right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a key piece. Would you agree with that, Ryan?
With which part?
The drinking on the job is a great thing to do, right? Yeah, like I take all the
just
beers.
like taking a beverage that they're
Yeah,
offering. it.
taking whatever it is that they're offering you.
yeah,
chocolates.
I don't always do, but I don't know, I'm 50-50, I guess.
Okay.
On
Why
that.
why wouldn't you? And I don't want to harp on this too much, but I'm curious why would you say no?
Yeah, so you'll usually feel it out. If it's like they're sitting there, depending on like where we are. If they're like right in the kitchen or like you want to water, I don't want to inconvenience them to make them have to go like a whole different room or go out of their way for me, But it depends on where I am in appointment. If I've only been there for a minute, I'm not gonna get a water. If we've been there for an hour, I'm like, I want a water
Yeah,
too in my
right.
head,
Right.
I just feel out the customer. I feel out the situation, I guess.
Okay. Well, one interesting maybe perspective to think about with that, even if it is something that's inconvenient to them to have to do, it gives you even a little bit of that dominance or control. If they're saying, and you say yes, and have them go get it, it can just be that little kind of tweak there. So
Yeah.
I agree with TJ on that. Is if they offer it, you 100% of the time say yes, even if you're not going to drink it. You just have it, right? You just have it there sitting with you.
I've had
I can
situations
understand it.
where they've offered me food and it might not be something I'd really like, but it'd be like, hey, my son loves these. I'll
Right.
take these home to him. I'll pack them up and take them with me after I leave.
And they go right in the trash. But
Yeah,
hey,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
but it's all those little details, right? And the customers, as much as you're analyzing everything that they're doing and saying, they're doing the same to you. And every decision you make, every action you have has a reaction on their end. So
Right.
yeah, I think those little things add up. So
And a little nuance to that, when people offer water, I tend to ask for it in a glass.
oh,
And
interesting. Why?
Specifically because I think some people are nervous or uncomfortable with their own like tap water. And if you kind of show them like, hey, your house is clean, I'm more than comfortable drinking out of your silverware, your glasses. It kind of makes them feel a little bit more at ease of like, oh, this guy likes my home, he thinks I'm clean, those kind of things. So,
Yeah, that's a really interesting detail to think
Yeah.
about. But I think that's what differentiates the level of sales rep that you can be, is those types of details and getting into the psychology of it. So appreciate that. That's
no
that's
problem.
really interesting. So as we dive into this, we're at the 49-minute mark now. As I said, the first hour or so was a lot of designing scope in that, but there was a piece here in building value I wanted to pull out and talk about a little bit. So we'll listen to this clip. It's about a minute long.
As long as you're doing general maintenance on it, and it's low maintenance, it's not like it requires a lot of maintenance, but as long as you're just doing general upkeep on it, it's not going to turn bad fast. And if you see anything, call us. We're going to take care of it. We're going to stand behind it. So, yeah, we don't sell materials that can be problematic for customers, because we want to back it with a good, strong warranty. And we don't want service calls over and over for the same problems.
Yeah.
That's why we've gotten rid of some things throughout the years, because they became problematic for us as a company as well as a customer. It became like an inconvenience for the customer and expense for us. The biggest example is a acrylic shower cans. This is what we used to sell and what a lot of companies sell. We don't like them anymore because they're problematic. They're too.
So in this section, I was personally a little torn, and I'd love to get TJ's take on this. You're nodding your head because you probably know where I'm going with this. I thought it started off really great. You're talking about the low maintenance to all of the low upkeep, all of that. Then you went to, we used to offer some products that were problematic, but we don't offer those because of this XYZ reason. And I can see the benefit to that of, we only use the top products. We get rid of things that don't work. But then on the other end of it, I wonder if, does that induce doubt into the customer of, well, how do I know the new product isn't bad if they chose a bad one before?
Yeah.
Is this one also bad? So TJ, what are your thoughts on bringing up things like that?
Yeah, I think Ryan was kind of right on the line with that. It wasn't overboard, but it wasn't, that's a tough position to be in, because like you said, there are benefits of you're showing the customer that, hey, we're always evolving, we're always evaluating what we're doing, and that's honest, that's real, and that there are benefits to that. But it can, depending on the customer, depending on how they perceive it or how they hear it, then they start thinking, well, what happens in 5 years when this becomes problematic? And it can work against you sometimes.
Yeah, it's kind of, I always think of just don't bring those types of things up, because you don't know who you're talking to, and you don't want to induce doubt in them, because that could be
I can understand that for sure.
something just in their mind they're bringing up later, right? They're thinking of, maybe I'm not as confident in this product as I was in the beginning, versus just talking about the positives and the great parts
Yeah.
of it. No, yeah, this isn't those acrylic type products. You're probably familiar with those. You've seen those. Yeah, that's not what this is.
As a comparison, and this is a very extreme example, but I had a trainee. This was probably 11 years ago. We had a program at my old company that would allow our customers to grade our installation teams after they were finished, and then their bonuses were based off of those scores they received. And we would always present it like, yeah, this is amazing. They're focused on giving you a 5-star experience, so they're always thinking about your best intentions, all those things. And it was always a positive thing. But I had a rep who would say things like, yeah, so if they show up to your home and they're high or they're drunk, then you can let us know and we'll fire them. And like I said, extreme example,
man.
right? But I tried to tell him, like, you understand what you're doing, right? Like,
Tell them they may show up high.
yeah, now they think, oh, that's
it's a
happened
possibility.
before, right? Like, and you can't do that. And so, not even in the same stratosphere as Ryan's example, but just goes to show you never want to position anything as negative. We're trying to paint a pretty picture of all the good things that can happen, not crazy.
Yeah,
not like that.
Don't plant the wrong seeds.
Exactly. Don't plant the wrong seed. There's nothing bad there, so let's not put something bad in their
Absolutely.
mind. So yeah,
It took every ounce of power to not, walk out of the house when that happened. I was like, I can't believe you said that.
you just said, "Excuse me, what?"
Yeah. I was like, ma'am, that never happens. Like that's not a real situation.
That has never happened. He's
No.
just he's crazy.
He's brand new. He's been here for 2 days.
right. All right. Well, let's jump into this next building value section. Here we go.
Yeah, pick that one. What do you like? You have to go down there.
Now that I see this, the white one might be the better choice.
Yeah, take it down and see what it looks like.
So I wanted to pull that out because that's something I haven't heard in any of the recordings we've done before, and I think it's a key area a lot of people miss is getting them involved with the samples and not just sitting at the kitchen table, right? A lot of companies, they just pull them out of the kitchen table and they look at them there and try to pick it out during there. But you said, what I understand here is you said, take it down there, see it. So how important do you think that is, Ryan, in your process?
Extremely important. I mean, and it depends on the scenario. This specific bathroom, so I'm remembering everything coming together. It was in a basement, of where they were putting this updated shower in there. And, basements are set up a lot different. Not a lot of natural light coming in there. And we're in a kitchen that's got more natural light and different lighting. So like I think going down there in that actual space, seeing that lighting with the wall colors, with the paint, putting it in there and seeing what it looks like in the real environment is really important. And it's honestly something my brother, who's also sales rep, like he's kind of got me in that habit with, because the way he builds his like order of processes between measuring and material, and like when he goes in to measure, he has them bring in what they like so far at the same time, and kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone and seeing what it looks like in that bathroom. And I thought it was always really cool he did that, and so I'm trying to find a way to implement it in there my own way too.
Yeah, I think that's so important because there's so many tools out there now, visualizers and all that. But I'm a big proponent of technology, but I don't think anything beats the actual physical sample, taking it up to where it's actually going to be. You can feel it. Nothing's going to replace that. So
Absolutely.
I think the more you can get involved with it. TJ, would you echo that or feel
100%.
different?
And it adds another layer of protection to you as well, because there are those rare circumstances where you're sitting at a table underneath maybe daylight light bulbs, and then inside their bathroom they have soft white light bulbs, and they are 2 totally different images, when they're in that different lighting and it's so much darker and there's no windows. And every now and then you get the customers that's like, this doesn't look like what I thought it looked like when we saw it originally. So when you can actually take it in there and put it up against their paint and in that specific lighting, it can really solidify that decision making.
Yeah, I think that's a key piece that I hadn't even thought of, but there's a lot of truth to it. Is it's also solving that production end of things, because the last thing you want is that's not the one I selected.
Yeah.
Because it
Or
can look
just
so
looks
different.
different.
Yeah, it just looks different. Well, do you look at it in here? No, we just looked at it at the kitchen table. A little different lighting in there.
Yes.
So that's another really key piece that I think goes into being a great sales rep, is being able to provide jobs that production can actually install successfully. So a lot goes into that. So anybody listening that doesn't do that now, whatever the business is, take your samples into the room that it's going to be,
Absolutely.
whether that's inside, outside. Look at it in the space. Let them touch it, feel it. obviously takes more effort on your end. You have to get out from the table. They have to get up, but can have a big impact
I
for
think
sure.
Yeah, I think it's good to get people involved in the motion can create a little more emotion too, like getting people moving instead of just stagnant in a seat.
Oh, yeah.
Getting up, get the blood flowing.
Right.
Could
Wake
be
them
good.
up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Wake them
Yep.
up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next piece we're going to listen to jumps into the company story a little bit that you talk about. So we'll dive in, have a listen here, and
Have you guys done any research on any other companies or products or anything like that?
No.
Anyone?
Research.
Oh,
Other.
did you?
I didn't say nothing yet.
Oh, okay.
Right.
What something I need to know?
No.
In the
Do you
paper,
get the discounts that they're
yeah,
out?
it says
that they-
seniors and it says,
Or no?
Yeah, we got.
so I'm going to pause there. There's a little more I want to listen to on this section. But first, with the question of, have you done any research so far? What's kind of the thought process with asking that piece of it? What are you trying to get at with that?
Yeah, just trying to just gauge like what they've seen so far. Like have they had other companies out? And then usually depending on what their answer is to that, then I'll have a follow-up question with that. If they say like, oh yes, we've had a couple other quotes, and then then I'll ask like, did you see anything like or didn't like? And just kind of touch on that to see like where their thoughts are or what direction that they're thinking about going.
Yeah.
And then can lead me into telling them more about our company.
Okay, so you're getting that as a leading question. Understand,
Yeah.
tailor your presentation to that a little bit more. So her response was, it sounds like there was a little bit that was muffled there.
Yeah.
But basically, he's like, I don't know nothing about this type of thing. And she's like, well, I saw an ad in the paper and there's discounts, right?
Yeah.
So getting into the pricing right off the bat. Yeah, TJ, when someone brings up discounting, relatively early on, I would say in the overall scheme of this appointment, we're just getting to the company story. We're about a little over an hour in. But how do you approach that when people are asking about the discounts right off the bat?
I think it's really important to bring up the discounts early. And I say that because one of the biggest mistakes that sales reps make, and I think it's like the death nail to any presentation, is when you get to the end and you give your retail price and the customer says no, and then you offer discounts that they were unaware of. Because now...
You sound sleazy.
Yes, exactly. So when you tell them, we actually teach, that's one of the first things that we talk about when we arrive. So we have a statement called the value of the visit, which is just a little paragraph about, hey, this is what I'm going to do for you today. And it ends with, we're going to give you a price that's good for a year. And then we also have some discounts available. If you want to get the work started before that, we have some discounts that are available for you as well.
Yeah.
So we want to make it not a surprise. And then, especially when we're laying down the retail price, we want to make sure we preface that like, this is the price that's good for a year. This does not include the discounts, right? We want to make that very clear.
You give them that option at least. You
Yes.
give them the here's the year price. That's an option for you. It's probably what they told you when they set the appointment with you. But you're not trying to sell it at that price, right? Like that's if someone goes. I mean, this is a question. If someone went out into the home and they sold it at MSRP, is that okay?
Personally, no, I don't feel it is.
Yeah.
If everyone else is getting it for the discounted price, I don't think you should sell it for the retail price. And I understand the business side of it is you're making more money. Okay, that's fine. But I think ethically, if you're offering a lower price to everyone should get that lower price.
Well, you're not going to get 40% of your business from referrals if you're giving people a
Right.
different price and you're not treating them fairly,
Absolutely.
right? And I think that's what consumers are more and more expecting. And people talk now and share on social media way more than before. So the old school methodology of sell as high as possible and get every penny you can, I don't think is a sustainable model.
I agree.
Anymore.
I've had people pounce on retail price. They show them like, here's your 1 year price. They're just like, let's do it. And then, the way our discount program's built, it's actually beneficial for the company as well. Because like they're doing things to earn these discounts that help us on the marketing side. And so, like,
justifiable.
that marketing, the marketing exposure and things that we can get out of it are just as valuable as a discount is to them. And so plus I just, I don't want to be like the unethical person. Just like, okay, let's write it up, because then, if they tell their neighbor and I go to their neighbor and I do offer their neighbor discounts and then they're like, why didn't I get those same discounts? It makes me look sleazy.
Why do you get the lawn sign discount? And you didn't even tell me that I could put a lawn sign in my yard.
Yeah,
I
at least
bought
offering them what we have to offer. Because like I said, they can benefit the company just as well.
Most of my time has been spent in the window and bathroom industry, but I did spend a little time in the solar world, which I'm not sure if you're
A little bit,
familiar
yeah,
with that. But I think that industry is the biggest culprit of that. Of you can go to one house and that person bought a 6 kilowatt system for $52,000, and the house next door got it for 12.
Yeah.
And it's a wild discrepancy in pricing. So I hate that with every fiber in my being.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this next piece we're going to listen to, I have a note in here. What I basically said to myself when I was listening to this is, she's selling this for you to him, because he seemed like he wasn't quite as on board with it to begin with.
Yeah.
So, we'll listen to this and talk about it.
My biggest beef is to find someone who does good work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can find what you want, but if they
To be honest, we went looking like last year at the
Oh, so she had done some research.
Uh-huh.
We didn't know anything.
Here it
It all
is.
comes out.
big box stores, and I said, I really don't want a big box store because they farm them out. You don't know who you're getting, and then if something goes
You
wrong,
don't know who you're getting either. They don't know who you're getting
I
either.
know.
Right.
Yeah, it's just kind of a roll the dice is the way I would say
Exactly.
it. So,
Right.
so I told him last week, I said, why don't we just go to here and see?
yeah,
And
yeah, cool.
Man, what better tee up could you want than the wife using your script, right? Like,
know.
I imagine that's
I
what
know.
you usually say is you don't know what you're getting with the big box store, who they're hiring. You're like, yeah, man, this is my script.
Did you sell bathrooms before? Because you're really good.
Right. So what's your strategy? Is that something that happens often, that you're able to get the customer at that point on your side enough to where
Every once in a while.
they're pitching it for you?
Every once in a while, because I mean, when you're asking questions and like your need assessment and your kind of your warm up thing, and what other kind of work have you done on the house? And I'm like, oh, I did flooring, or I did this, I did that, and then you ask them like, okay, how did those projects go? What did you like about it? What did you dislike about it? And sometimes you can get them to tell you, oh, we had X company come out, but it went wrong because of this, and you just ask further questions and just let them tell you all the negative things they had about that, so that then
Right.
it just tees up your own company's story that like, well, these aren't going to happen with our company, and here's why.
Right. I mean, there was that section and a few others in here, but something I thought really cool is they talked more about your company actually than you did. Like
And I
overall
love that.
in here, which is really cool. Like to
I
have it
wish
where-
everyone went like that.
We call
You know-
those unicorns. They don't come around very often.
Yeah,
know,
to
I
where
wish
you
it
don't
did.
you don't have to sell the company. They're sold and telling you why they're not going to do big box store. They're not going to do it themselves. They're like, yeah, we're going to hire a company like you. When it's not that easy, when it's not a unicorn, let's talk about those, TJ. What's some strategies when it comes to company story that you would recommend a rep keep in mind when they're in the home? What are the key important things that they need to hit?
The word that comes to mind is differentiation. I think you have to, the goal of your company story should be, here are the issues with the industry or the other companies around this area. Let me show you how we solve those problems. You have to paint the problem. There's no solution if there's no problem. And most of the people that we're talking to, this is their first time ever having a full sales presentation or speaking with a company the way they're speaking with us. So they're unaware that these problems even exist. So we have to spend some time showing them, hey, that 90% of all home improvement companies are out of business within 10 years of opening. And
It's not crazy.
but yeah, it's horrible.
Like, what good is a warranty?
Exactly. When we get into warranties, we have a saying, you've probably heard it a lot, the bold print giveth and the fine print taketh away.
I actually haven't heard that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a
good.
Tony Hody one.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. So, we actually have other warranties that show, like it says right in the bold print, lifetime warranty. And then when you read the fine print, it's like, oh, by the way, if we discontinue this window line, we don't have to cover you at all. Or we only cover the labor for 1 year after installation.
Yeah.
Like there's always some kind of catch.
The limited is very limited.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But company story is so pivotal. I think that if you do it correctly, you should have the sale when you're finished with company story. Everything else should be icing on the cake, but they should love you and love your company so much by the time you're done that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, hearing you say that, like after she sold you on your own company.
Yeah.
And going through this, I thought the sale was in the bag. Like I thought this was a done
Well,
deal type of thing. Like
I've also found that when people are overtly positive or they're so much on your side that it's like, wow, I wish every customer was like this. Those are often the ones that they're hiding something. There's something more
Right.
behind that. So I'm curious to see where this goes.
What would you say is the biggest objection you see when you have those customers? And to Ryan's credit, like even though this customer was like kind of that unicorn textbook, like seemed like an easy customer, you followed like the whole process going through this and really nailed down the design, answered all their questions. But I guess what would you say is the one of the main things you see come up that hits you that you can't close it?
Well, it's hard for me to answer that question specifically because I feel like there's only ever one objection. And that's when does the value of your product exceed the cost? That's what it is. And I want to think about it. I want to sleep on it. None of those things are real. Those are all smoke screens to protect the customer. I'll just give you an example. Are you a football fan?
Little, not super into football. But
Okay. So if I told you I had a Tom Brady football card and it's
Sure.
$5,000, you want it? You want to buy it from me cash right now?
I'd probably be a little skeptical.
You don't have $5,000 sitting on you?
No, I don't have $5,000 sitting on me.
That's
No.
weird. No. But if I told you, yeah, this card is worth $150,000, now would you go to the bank and get $5,000 and pay for it?
Yeah, I'd find $5,000 from people in this room or in this hotel, and I'd be getting that from you.
Again, crazy analogy, but the thought process is the same, is that once they believe
Right.
that the value of what you offer exceeds the cost, then they're willing to move forward. So I think the biggest battle that we fight when we go into a home is changing the perception of what that person thought the price was going to be before we got there. Because I feel like if we surveyed 100 customers and we said, hey, we're going to come out and we'll see you on Tuesday. Before we get there, what do you think a shower costs? I would bet you
5,000.
80% of the customers would say $5,000.
Yeah.
That's the number, right?
Absolutely.
And I have to imagine that's like a Home Depot, Lowe's type of thing, right?
Right.
But,
They see a shower kit, and that's what
exactly,
they assume.
exactly. So that's the problem. If they said, I think a shower costs $40,000, and then we go in and we pitch them what we do for
You're the
10
freaking
or
hero.
15. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We have 100% close rate. We
Right.
never miss. So that is the problem, is changing that perception of once the customer believes that to get the quality of product that they want, they can't spend $5,000. If they spend $5,000, they will not get something that they're happy with. Until you change that, you can't win.
Until you change that, you can't win. Until you change that they see there's enough value in it. You
Right.
didn't build that in. Maybe it's price conditioning or
That's
them
it.
understanding what it is. You get to the price and it's a big surprise, and they're not there.
Have you ever seen tools like the cost versus value report, for
Yep.
example?
Yep,
I mean, that's
100%.
a go-to for us because we're able to show, hey, these are people in Cleveland that, this is where this data is coming from. But, a house of 10 windows is $21,000, which means they're $2,100 per window, right?
Right.
And we use so many other resources on top of that, but using things like that, it's not our data, it's not us telling you that this is what it costs, it's other resources, trusted resources that makes all the difference.
A lot more validity to
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Well, before we get into the closing sequence, I got one more piece I want to pull out for a company story that we'll talk about here quick. Kind of jumped around a little bit there, but I think it's an important piece that you talked about.
Yeah, so that's one thing that we really pride ourselves on is satisfaction. So we're really highly rated on any of the review sites. So we're a 5-star on Google, A+ rating on Better Business Bureau. Those two things are hard to accomplish in this
Yeah.
industry. Because there's so many contractors out there doing bad things. It
Exactly.
doesn't take much to become a remodeler. You just get an LLC, slap a sticker on your truck, and I'm a remodeler.
Yeah, I know.
But to do it well, that's where
I watch
the
Rico
hard
to the
work.
rescue. I know, man.
Yeah, that's where it takes a lot of hard work to actually become that. So
So what I find really interesting or that captures me there is you hear a lot of these people are like, yeah, we got 5 stars on Google, 5 stars on Better Business Bureau, but they're really interacting with you. You got them just excited about it. They don't feel like this is a pitch. You're educating them on
conversation.
it. It's a conversation. Yeah. So I think that really plays well when you can shine on those highlights of Google reviews, Better Business Bureau, all of that. So just a piece for people to think about is don't just read your script. Don't just go off of that. You got to make it a conversation, or they're not going to be interested.
If I can make it a conversation for every single one, that's the way I would have it. But sometimes it doesn't flow that way. Some
Right.
people are just like sitting there like a bump on a log
Yeah.
and
Just give me the
won't
price.
interact with you. And then you're just like, then you got to sound more scripted. And those ones usually don't end well,
Yeah.
you know? It's,
Right.
As
so
a
I try to get
trainer-
them talking and getting conversational and just getting that rapport stuff done first, because then the rest of it's just, we're just talking.
Yep, we're just
the
going
goal,
through
at
the
least.
flow. TJ, you were gonna say
As a
something?
trainer, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people say things like, "This next slide talks about this." Like, oh,
What are we in high school? College presentation here?
yeah. Or they'll be like, "Well, I'm going to start my presentation by telling you a little bit about our company." I'm like,
never
"You
call it a
gotta stop."
presentation.
Never.
I may have a
Yeah.
customers like kind of go off on a tangent and something like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to like mess up your routine or your script. I was like, I don't have one. We're just talking, you know, like that's, I want them to know like this isn't a scripted thing here. We're just here hanging out and chatting and going over this, and hopefully you're getting some new windows at the end of the day. But, you know, and that's, you know, people always try to say like, I don't mean to get you off your script. And it's like, no script here. Like, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I try
he's
to just go
incredibly
in
natural.
with the flow
Oh,
and make
very
it. I want
much
it to be as natural as I possibly can.
Yeah.
In every scenario, but it doesn't
Yeah.
always work that way.
I think that's so important. Tools are great.
Yeah.
The slideshow, what is PowerPoint, whatever it is, they're great tools, but they can also be a detriment, right? If you
Yes.
don't use them right and you use it like you said, is all right. Let me get my presentation out.
Oh.
Let's go through these slides.
I've
Who-
heartburn just hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to sit through a presentation. I hate
No.
like, nobody wants to do that.
Right.
Why is a homeowner going to want to hear your presentation?
I feel like I can immediately see the customer just go, oh, like eyes roll back in their head.
Another one. So how would you, TJ, approach that? I mean, what do you recommend? You guys, I imagine, use some sort of slide type of
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah.
You don't call it that to them, but how do you recommend they pull that out and approach it?
I think, obviously when you're first starting out, you're going to lean on that a lot more because it's kind of like a guideline keeping you on the train tracks, right? But the goal is just to master your content enough to where, like, if there's a picture you want to show, then you can use it. But a majority of that information you should be able to give just as a conversation like we are now, and it should just come off as two people talking and not someone standing in front of a classroom like, today we're talking about this. Yeah.
Today your shower is moldy. And
Yeah. Yeah. Too much of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's definitely a key piece. Use the tool to your advantage, but don't let it be your detriment.
Yes.
When it comes to going through the process.
I like to present it like it's like cooking. Like, I want to give you every spice and to put into your pantry, but it's up to you to make the dish. And
Right.
some recipes don't need 8 tablespoons of cocoa powder, right? Like, you want to tailor it to whatever fits that situation.
Yeah, and everyone's different.
Right.
Every appointment's different.
Yeah.
What you used on the appointment this morning isn't going to be what you can use on the appointment this afternoon to have it be successful.
And if you need that stuff, it's there. If you don't need it, it's not. But at least the tools are at your disposal if you need them in that situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, very cool. So next piece we're going to dive into is our closing sequence, where we're going to spend probably the most amount of time today just diving into the closing sequence. So we're at 1 hour and 50 minutes is where what we identified really started getting into the closing. Of course, you're doing it throughout, but this is where we really start to get down to pricing and all of that. So I'll play the first clip here. All right.
When I work up pricing, do you guys want to hear financing options, something fun paying out of pocket?
Both.
Yeah, I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
pay someone and
Whatever's.
finance them.
Cool.
Just because. You want another water?
Do you want to? He said no to the water there. not the second water. So well, here I'm going to play that first piece again, just so it's fresh in our.
When I work up pricing, do you guys want to hear financing options, something fun paying out of pocket?
So I know, having done several episodes of these, everybody has a different approach or thought on how we should present financing. So before I kind of give my thoughts, TJ, I'd like to hear what are your thoughts on is that an appropriate question to ask? Is it best way to ask it?
I try to ask a similar type question toward the very beginning, just to. I guess it doesn't really matter where you pulled out. I try not to do it like right before the close, but like toward the beginning. But I usually ask like, hey, when the time comes to do the work, were you hoping to just pay for it outright, or would it be more helpful to have a low monthly payment? And just ask it like that, and then let them answer. If they say anything other than we are paying cash and we're only paying cash, then I'm presenting them with the financing.
You assume
option.
it's financing,
Yes.
unless they are confident in that
Right.
answer.
Well, specifically because the way that that Window Depot prices things is, you'll get a better price if you pay cash.
Sure.
We don't ever want to go up, right? We don't want to show someone a cash
Right.
price and then be like, well, what happens if I finance? Well, it's going to cost $900 more. Like that's,
But I want the cash price. I just want the financing. Why
right.
can't we do
Then
that?
You're
Yeah.
dead when you do that, right?
I've really tweaked my price presentation,
Mhm.
especially since then. I mean,
Since-
that was 3 months ago almost. And
well,
cool.
that was the
We've
first
really-
thing we worked
yeah, it
on
was, like,
when I
right-
came on board.
yeah,
Was
so like I've really
switching.
tweaked how I'm doing all those things now.
Because I think even just the change in phraseology of, are you thinking about financing versus what you said of
Would it be
of-
more helpful?
Would it be more helpful to have low monthly payments?
Mm-hmm.
I, as a consumer, feel a lot more comfortable saying, yeah, I'd be good. Low monthly payments sound good versus financing just feels, people don't like that word.
Right.
They feel almost guilty if they have to finance. And
Yeah.
you can even kind of hear it in her voice. She's like, yeah, I guess financing, cuz.
She's like, well, some of it, we might pay cash for some and finance some of it
Yeah.
because people, when they hear financing, they start to think interest, and no one wants to pay interest. So.
Right. Right. So trying to find out what's important to them
Right.
with that can be key.
For sure.
So let's listen here. This is right after. It's kind of ties in with what we talked about a little bit earlier, but let's see.
Any other fears, reservations, concerns taking something like this on? So
Not
what we
really.
covered. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So make sure I covered everything.
So that's right before you're getting to lay down or go over the scope and lay down price. I guess I get what you're getting at, but it goes back to that. Are there any fears, reservations? If I'm a consumer, I'm starting to think, well, is there something I should be afraid of? Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know, TJ, what are your thoughts on that? Is that
Yeah, I know some places have taught that phraseology in the past. I am personally not a fan of that. Again, because I don't like to bring up negative stuff. I'm trying
Right.
to keep it rosy, right?
fears, reservations, concerns?
Yeah.
That's all very negative things.
The only negative things I want to bring up are like other companies' bad practices that we
Right.
do differently, right? And also that is typically done at the very, very beginning. Like we do like a quick survey, kind of like, let me learn about what your wants and needs are. And that's usually done at the beginning. I'm not sure how it happened so late on
Yeah.
that one, but
Yeah, I don't just might have been the flow of the appointment that
yeah.
put me in that. Actually, I usually do that way earlier.
Right.
But yeah, I was just kind of making sure everything was buttoned up before I went to price.
But that's a good piece to talk about is sometimes maybe let's say you missed a step early on. Maybe you didn't do this step early on. Maybe it doesn't always make sense you don't always have to check it.
Yeah.
If it's later on, it might be better to just skip
Leave
it
it.
at that
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
than bring it up and put fear into their mind a minute and a half before we lay down our price.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always look at the selling process, just like a movie. Like I love Inception. I think that
Oh,
movie's
it's one of my
amazing.
favorites.
It's
Love
a
it.
phenomenal movie. But if you took that movie and chopped it up into 10 pieces and then rearranged the order, it's already confusing. It'd be way worse, right, when you do that. And it just wouldn't feel the same. So the order in which you do things matters.
Yeah. And it doesn't always you can't just move a piece over here.
Right.
If you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah.
Not much you can do about it.
And
I think
especially
kind of
like
the
that
thought there.
specific piece is like not the most important. And I don't know if it made a huge dent in this one, but that specific question is not like a hyper important. Like if you forget to price condition, like, I might want to try to tackle that one. But
Yeah, he might have. Well, we'll get there.
all right. Oh boy, here we go.
We're 2 hours in, and there wasn't any price conditioning yet. There
Let's
was
buckle
no
up.
cost
All right.
value or any of that. But they're unicorns, so we shouldn't have to, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because they're happy. She's
Yeah.
selling it for us. They're on board. We don't need to price condition it. But before we get that, the one piece I want to just pull out that doesn't really have to do with like how you presented price, but I think not every company does. What I think you did was really important here is you actually go over the scope in a lot of detail. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to play at least the first 30 seconds of this so people can hear how that flow sounds. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's such an important thing to have them understand before you lay down price. Here's all the details of what we talked about and what you selected, and is all that correct?
So important.
Almost as old as I am. Okay, so scope of work and everything we'll be doing. So Trim Slate's just the name of this shower pan.
Okay.
So the size that I'm going to order is going to be 67 by 36. We're just going to have to trim
Trim
a
it
little
down.
bit off the length, 1 to 2 inches max. Approximate height is going to be 1 inches, 1 inch, which is what you see here. Color will be black. Our drain location will be in the center, and we'll have a black metal cover. So we're just going to powder coat that metal cover from the factory. Left, right, back walls. This did 1.5. This sold at the office, so they need to order a little bit more material since it's a more than 60-inch shower space. So that way they have enough material. The ceiling panel.
All right, so you go on with that for really another 2.5, 3 minutes, which some people might be thinking, oh my gosh, I can't spend. They're going to get bored with that. But TJ, why is it so important to make sure you hit all of those details? And that 3 minutes is one of the most important 3 minutes of the appointment.
I could spend 15 minutes talking about how important it is. It's everything, because first thing it's doing is it's building value. You've been there now for 2 hours, right?
Yeah, we're at the 2 hour mark.
They've probably forgot a lot of stuff. So taking a minute to go through it again and just remind them of all the selections they made, especially when you're talking a bigger ticket item like a bathroom, it's like there's a lot of work involved here. We don't want people to feel like it's like walking into Home Depot, I buy that bath kit for $800 and I'm good to go. Like we're trying to get them to understand that there's so many details and components to this, to where they're like, gosh, there's a lot going on here. This is a big job. And once they feel like it's a big job, then there's going to be more inherent value there. It also protects you from pricing mistakes. Because then someone goes, oh, you forgot to put that seat on there. And you're like,
you're right. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I've done that where they go and like they'd say like, oh, we said we wanted 2 grabbers, not 1. I'm like, and I even make a joke. I'm like, and this is why we go over this before we show a price, to make sure everything is that they're in agreement with what I wrote down and what we went over, and we're good to go.
There's an extra little layer that you can add on to that to beef it up a little bit more too. When you go through all of the materials that are selected, I always like to hit them with, and remember, all of this comes with a no questions asked, fully transferable lifetime warranty.
Which
This
I think
is
you did
all
hit
labor.
on that.
Yeah.
Yep, at the end, you did say that.
Yeah, all labor, all material, all taxes. Just kind of reinforcing in some of the stuff that might have been brought up in company story that they forgot from 2 hours ago.
Right, right. Hitting that value, building that value high. And it is a bit of price conditioning to get them ready to, oh man, this is going to be, you want them to be thinking this is going to be expensive, right? You don't want them at this point thinking, oh, yeah, we're safe. It's only going to be $5,000.
Man, if they're thinking that, we're in trouble.
You got a problem there.
Yeah.
So we're 2 hours in. At this point, Ryan is presenting prices, the next thing we're going to listen to. Before we do that, though, TJ, I'd like to hear what's your recommended way of laying down the price? Is there a word track? Is it just kind of natural? What do you recommend?
I've always taught this way. There's a million different ways to do things. I just have a specific way that I've always felt the most comfortable with. When you lay down the retail price, it's something like, okay, well, the price that's good for a year from today is $15,000. No matter how many price increases we go through over the next year, we guarantee this price. You can call us anytime, whenever you're ready to move forward, and this deal is available for you. I took the liberty of writing down 3 of our standard payment methods. So I have a cash option, that's this. I've got a monthly payment of $350 a month, and I have a $550 a month. Now, John and Mary, when the time comes to actually do the work, which one of these 3 options would work best for you? And the key there, and where people make, and I would like to hear his before I actually comment on that actually, but the key is to make sure that it's all future tense. It's not, buying right now. It's when you're ready to do the work, when the time comes to do the project, what's going to make sense. Because again, like we mentioned earlier, the second you make them feel like you're asking for a decision now, it starts to feel like the pressure's on, right? Yep. And then the answer is, well, we need to talk about it. And then, any discount you offer after that, you just look slimy.
Yep. It's an uphill battle from there. So let's listen to how Ryan presented price here.
You're very quiet.
Silence. There is no price presentation.
You know what's scary is there are some people that present price like that.
Oh,
They go, okay, the price is $15,000.
And then
they just sit there and wait. Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yeah, let me see if I can reload this. Bear with me.
I don't think there's anything I hate in sales more than that. Someone that lays price down. Oh, I can't stand it.
Yeah, then say nothing.
Yeah, just
I
sit
mean,
there.
that's the old school mentality, though,
I
right? Like
know.
that's how many people are taught. I've definitely heard that of say your price and then shut up. Let them speak first.
Yeah. And they look at me and go, "You silly millennial. You don't know what you're doing." I'm like, okay.
All right, where are we at?
Our 1 year price for everything, all inclusive to tax, labor, material, cleanup, haul away, disposal, full life home warranty, everything out the door. Before the discounts that we are going to apply that we guys asked about, we're at 25,105.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love the fact that you said, "Hey, this is before the discounts that are applied." I mean, it's
She already
perfect.
asked about them too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
especially
They'd already
important
talked
because
about
they asked about them and you acknowledged them. Like if you
Yes.
didn't bring it up at this point,
yeah.
you'd seem pretty sleazy if you just said the price is gonna be 25,000. Well, didn't we talk about discounts? Oh yeah. I guess you can have those.
I'm curious to hear the next section because that's always the make or break is what happens right after that.
Right. All right. So let's listen to how we going through our discount.
That's before the discounts.
That's correct. Discounts are good. So here's how we do discounts. This is called our cooperative savings program. So some companies, if they had the reaction that you did, they would just go, how about that? Just drop the price. And it's like, where'd that come from? Why didn't we just get that to begin with?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. We'd rather give high integrity pricing without games gimmicks. Now, this is a 1 year price for a reason, so it's going to be protected from price increases for us. People called us on the 364th day and like, hey, we want to move forward with that project. It's still a profitable project
I
for
get
us.
that. Okay.
You know what I mean? So because we're going to have price changes
Right.
1 to 2 times throughout the next year, but then it's still, we offer a discounted price for a year, we're not going to make any money off that project, if that makes
Right.
sense. So all the discounts have a shorter expiration date, but they're actually really good discounts. So most of it's going to be revolved around marketing and ways that can help us reduce costs. There's little things that you guys can do that help us a lot that we feel okay giving discounts for. So this is a pie chart of how we find customers. So repeat customers and referrals are our top 2. So these are all free sources for us. Have customers that do business with you again, or they tell their friends, family, neighbors to do business with you as well. Do some radius marketing around jobs that we're currently working on or have recently completed, like canvassing.
Right.
Reviews, so standing out online with high review scores, we get phone calls from that alone. So a lot of people will research a company based off reviews if they even want to call them or not. Social media, we post a lot of before and after pictures, like to show off the work we're completing. We get involved in community pages. A little bit we do pay for. Print ads, playing
Right.
dealer, new magazine,
Right.
advice, things like that. Live events, home shows, community events. Google, because you gotta pay Google to stay on page 1. Otherwise, nobody really goes past page 1. So we keep our name as high as we possibly can, so people can easily find us.
So that goes on for about another 3 minutes of going through all of the discounts. And I'd love to get both of your guys' thoughts on this because just listening to it, it seems like a lot.
Yeah.
To me, like hearing it, and of course I'm not there being presented to, but it's a lot of time going through all the discount options. I'm curious what the thought process is with that, and if that works.
Yeah. So making them understand like why we're doing it, building value around the discount itself. A lot of customers or a lot of companies will just come in and give you a price and then just drop that price for no reason behind it, and it just shows a little bit more low integrity.
Well, the reason is if you buy today,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
get
exactly.
15,
Buy
20%
today,
off.
or and then they'll go a 50% drop then, and people are like, they're kind of mind blown.
Right.
So it's like the purpose to me is like go through and help them understand like why we're doing these discounts, why they're beneficial to them. And some of the things they have to agree to, like to actually participate in, like lightly, but there are things that can help us so that, it's kind of just building an understanding of value around that discount program, why it makes sense for them as well as us.
Yeah, so I think the key takeaway for me there is, I've always been of the philosophy of less discounts or more. Like you don't want to have too much to overwhelm them. But it was interesting for me hearing this of maybe you can have a lot of discounts if it's something that's clearly understandable and there's a justified reason for it. And I think something you say in there and that you just said here is they have to earn it.
Yeah.
Right? They have to do something for it. You're not just giving them money off for the sake of money. money being taken off to get the project done sooner than later. It's you got to do a lawn sign, you got to leave us a review, whatever it may be. They have to earn it, and they have to give their commitment to do that. Which, just thinking about it, I mean, I would think you ask them in this one point, which ones would you be willing to do? And even if they're not committing to buy, you're getting a commitment, right? You're getting a commitment to that discount and earning that one, which is a buying signal, right?
For sure.
So
Yeah, and the entire tee up, the lead into that is explaining that most companies will just, again, lower the price. Just, if you buy today, or whatever their reasoning is. We want to show you discounts that actually have tangible value to us, and you help us, we help you. It's symbiotic.
yeah, I think that's a newer form way to do it that a lot of companies haven't embraced.
Yeah.
That I think it was pretty cool. So the next part we're going to listen to is going into financing a little bit, right? So you talked about your discounts. Now it looks like you go into a bit more of a financing discussion. Is that pretty typical, kind of the flow?
Depends. Yeah. Depends on if they're like where they are, what I know at that point.
Okay. Well, let's
I've tweaked my price.
Those 0% plans are really standard, like 84-month loans, but they have a promotional period. So those are ones that like don't do it if you're not going to pay it off inside the timeline, because it's usually high interest. That's retroactive.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are ones that people just want to control some cash flow a little bit better. Monthly installment plans, we're getting as low as 8.99% for 84 months, or you can go higher on the month if your monthly payment is really important to you.
Yeah.
All those are no prepayment penalty, and then those ones don't require a down payment if you don't want to put a down payment down. Just depends on how much you want to finance.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you're paying out of pocket, we take a third down and balance due upon completion.
Okay.
All right. Here's how it works. Cool little application that we do all the work for us. So we have a 1-year price set here. That's our discounted price before anything's applied. There's our first discount for senior citizen one. The rest of those are up to you.
So I guess my concern at this point would be hearing this, and TJ, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, but it doesn't sound like we've isolated if they're financing or paying cash or what that's going to be. And I mean, as you said early on, that in your case affects the overall price.
Yes.
I would think it would be kind of a need to know type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, why didn't you?
Yeah, like I said, I've definitely changed my price presentation. Nowadays, I'll just build it around with the assumption that they are going to finance.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And build it directly to that, and then letting them move it from there if they want. Plus, we have an application that we present with the price on that we're checking boxes, and then the payment boxes are checked on there. Earlier on, up until about March, I was just allowing them to kind of like, here's your options, pick and
like
choose.
a menu of select what
Correct.
you want.
Let
build
them
your
check the
own.
box. Nowadays, I'll get the commitments on which ones they want to do, check them all off myself, including the buy today, then going straight to the financing, then presenting that price. Because then it'll have your 1-year price, your discounted price, your down payment, and your monthly payment all built into that app. And then just showing it just there. And then going from there. Then if like, what if I go from 0% to this, and then all that stuff adjusts for me.
Right.
And so we've even updated that app. I think even since then, to kind of integrate all those things in there. So just the price presentation is getting a little bit more fluent and easier for us, and just changing the way I'm doing it.
Yeah,
so.
that was our first obstacle that we tackled when I came in, was that specific laying down price. And like I mentioned earlier, what we like to do is right when we lay down retail, here's your cash, your 2 different finance options. And we also want to keep those simple. Like, we don't want to go into like, well, this is financing that's 6 years and it's got a 9.9. We don't want all those details. It's just I've got a $300 a month and a $550 a month. When the time comes to do the work, which one of those 3 options works best? That allows the customer the opportunity to say, they might say, $350 is great. It's like, okay, cool. So you know
where you need to be.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, we're about to do discounts, and that $350 is about to be $200.
Yeah.
Like, we're in great
Good
shape.
news.
Yeah. Or the better situation is where the customer says, man, $350, that's a little high. I don't know if I can swing that.
Right.
So then you get to convert that with, okay, yeah, no problem. We have tons of different options. How high too high is $350?
How much too much is
it?
it?
Do you need it to be 300 or 250? Like, where do you need that to be? And then they'll tell you, like, Yeah, I mean, we'd probably be okay if we were around 225. And then
Right.
now at least you have a target of something that you can work towards instead of just this nebulous number that you have no idea what the destination is. So we want to do all of that at retail before we even get into the discount so we know where to go.
You need to know where they're at ahead
Yes.
of time with it. So yeah, it sounds like you've really tweaked that since listening to this
For sure.
this presentation.
Yeah.
But I think this is good for people to hear, and I'd love to at some point get you guys back on with the more updated version.
Oh, yeah,
to,
that'd be great.
to listen to it, because yeah, this I think is we'll listen to a few more clips here, but really the spoiler, you don't get the sale because you didn't identify that
Yeah.
early on, right?
100%, yeah.
Because you did the whole jump from you were at this price, then you went down to this price, but really from the beginning they were telling you they were showing you
know.
signs that they wanted financing on there, but we gave them the cash option.
Yeah.
So I mean, with that, TJ, would you give them a cash option if they told you from the get-go, yeah, I'm going to be financing?
So I kind of like to present that as an option simply as a way to, I have this philosophy. I like to create my own objections and then break them. Yeah.
That sounds destructive.
It does, yes. But for example, like, I'll bring up the cash option of like, yeah, it's, and I'll just make up a number, but like, yeah, that's 50% down, 50% of completion. And then they're in their head thinking, oh boy, I got to put $7,500 down to get this job started. And they start thinking that. And then when I do all my discounts and then hit them with the financing, oh, by the way, with this $150 a month plan, there's no deposit at all. And they're like,
So you
whoa.
show the benefit of
Yeah.
that.
So now they're thinking, man, I don't have to put $7,500 down and the payments $150
Right.
less a month. Like, yeah, it's just adding more value right when you need it the most at the finish line.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, let's listen to the objection that the customer gave you shortly after you gave price. Right. Let's see.
Project actually saves us money in the long run. So
I don't know. It's a little more than I thought.
Okay. Okay.
I'm being honest.
yeah.
I mean, you probably hear that a lot, right? It's a
Never
little
heard
more,
that
It's a little
before.
more than I thought.
That's new.
I think we've all heard that on probably 90% of our appointments. It's very rare someone says, "Wow, that's a great deal."
Yeah.
I thought it'd be more.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you recommend approaching that when somebody says, "That's a little more than I thought"?
Well, of course, my mind is going, okay, I screwed up somewhere. I if that's the response I get at the end, if they say something like, oh, before you got here, I thought it was going to be a lot less. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. But if I get to the end, they go, that's a lot more than I thought. After the presentation, then I know that there's somewhere that I messed up.
So thinking back to this, Ryan, where do you think you messed up?
I get a price condition a lot better. And I remember this bathroom specifically, but I mean, it's a tough one. It was very not standard. We were doing a lot of custom work involved in it. And at that time, and that's probably why I kind of dodged the normal price conditioning I would do, because it wouldn't have done me any favors. You know what I mean? It would just showed what a wet space costs, like, and that's it. But they picked a premium product. There was a lot of custom things, custom pan, more material. We were doing something to their drop ceiling because we were expanding their space. There was just a lot of just things built into it that I don't know if price conditioning with our tool we had at that time would have done me any favors anyways. So I didn't even bring it out.
Because
You
the
know what I
price
mean?
conditioning may have said, let's say price conditioning said it was going to be 15,000 for
Exactly.
an average, and
Exactly.
you're going to come in at 20, 25 because there's a lot of custom.
Exactly.
That
Now-
was
It's
the
like, it would
second
have put
thing.
me
that-
at too low of a price that it just wouldn't. I don't think
Right.
it would have helped me. Would it have?
Right.
I don't know.
That was the second thing that we tackled after we worked on laying down price was price conditioning. So we actually developed for bathrooms a full bath remodel price conditioning toolkit. Essentially, it's like multiple pages full of resources from all around the web, Home Advisor, Angie's List, cost versus value, like all the big name brands that people have heard of. With the point being that if you look at all these resources, they tell you that if you were remodeling a whole bathroom, it costs X amount of dollars.
Right.
And then we use that as a drop point of like, okay, I know you're only getting your shower remodeled, but there's a really easy way to figure out the shower price off of this
Off
figure.
of a full.
And that's a fun one because I'll ask a customer like, what do you think a floor costs? Like $900, right? And you can ask them, how much does a good vanity cost? And they'll always tell you like, I don't know, like $800.
Right.
So by the time you go through like mirrors and lighting and toilets and stuff like that, next thing you know, you've got maybe $3-4 grand in other material. But the whole bathroom model cost is like 25 grand. So you're
Right.
like, so where's that
Where does
other
that-
20 coming from, right?
Oh,
And they're like, well, and I tried to use the explanation of it's because people aren't sinking a bunch of money into a bathroom vanity or a bathroom toilet. They're putting it in the wet space, the thing that takes the abuse, the thing that gets moldy and costs thousands to replace. They're putting money into that so they don't have to do it again. And that's why the cost is so much higher than everything else in the room. Plus, it's, it takes an hour to put in a toilet. It takes 2 days to put in a shower. It's a totally different thing.
yeah, and I think that's a really great way to do it is break out. Because they're thinking, I know an objection I've heard a lot. Let's say you pitch a $15,000 shower. Well, I could get the whole bathroom done for 20.
Sure.
You probably could.
And I like to use a phrase when I start my price conditioning. I like to say things like, now, look, I know the number one question I get every house I walk into is how much is this going to cost, right? And the unfortunate answer to that is it will cost whatever you want it to cost. I can get you a shower for $400 from Home Depot, or I can get you like natural granite, and I can build you a human car wash that costs $50,000, right?
plus, yeah.
Whatever you want to spend, you can spend. So I love teeing it up that way.
Yeah, no, that's very smart. All right, got just a couple more clips we're gonna listen to here.
You did 5 and did 0% for the rest.
Yeah.
We put us at 19,527. Okay. You did 5 and did just a standard installment, like a 8.99 84-month type of plan. We did 18,763. That's just me, deducting what you would pay.
Right.
So my thought with that, and DJ, I'd love for you to chime in, Ryan, you as well, because maybe you guys have changed this process. It's a lot of numbers,
Yep.
right? And it to me, like hearing about it, I would think that's a good reason for him to maybe say, I got to just think on this.
Yep.
Because there's a lot to think about,
Yeah.
right? Do I want to do this financing plan at this price or this financing plan at this price? And which one am I actually going to save? And I'd be starting to personally just compute with, okay, what's actually the better deal? I don't understand what the better deal is based on the financing plan. And
Yeah,
that.
and with the changes we made in our price presentation tool, it's also helped me change and not revolving it around when people are doing financing, not revolving it around the end price, revolving on the monthly rate. And then now we can plug in down payment that'll adjust all those things accordingly, and things can flow better now.
Yeah.
In that scenario, that might have helped me. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it very well might have, but I think it's an important piece for any company listening out there now, a sales rep out there, is if you're presenting like that, where you're giving multiple price options with multiple payments at different financing rates, it is way too much
Yeah.
for the
Information
human brain to
overload.
comprehend, where you are absolutely going to get the
Just
objection
focus on the
of,
monthly payment.
I need to think about this,
Yep.
because they truly need to think about it. There's too much.
I think that rule of thumb goes throughout the whole presentation, especially in bathroom design, because there are a million questions.
So
Like,
many
which
things.
shower head do you want? Which shelf do you want? What color wall do you want? And I've always taught that I think it's easier to, again, take that advisor's perspective. And when someone picks a wall color they like, it's like, okay, well, instead of offering, here's every shower head we have, here's all 50, choose the one you want. It's, since you picked this wall color, here are the 2 shower heads that look the best with this wall. Which one do you like out of those 2? And make it a either or best out of 3 or something like that. But instead of just being like, here's my catalog, feel free to look through the 700 options I
Guide
have.
them through it.
Right. Because the real decision we need them to make is to buy today, not what shower head. We don't need 45 minutes on. Let me look at every shower head you have.
They're going to get exhausted from just that.
Exactly.
To death by options.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there was a bit of a curveball thrown in here. So basically, I'm going to skip ahead about 10 minutes in this. And what we summed up to is basically the wife said, hey, I don't know, honey, it's up to you. Yeah, she basically said, "You're
that close.
You decide." Like
We're
she's
that
saying,
close.
yeah. She's
Sure.
saying, "Yeah, it's good." And he's like, "Yeah." I mean, he's hemming and hawing about it, and then he says, "Let me phone a friend,"
Oh boy.
which I haven't heard this one very often, but this was interesting. I'll play
forgot
this
he did
and
that.
we'll
I
talk
completely
about it.
forgot he did that. That's right.
What'd Peach say?
He said he would hold. I'm gonna hold off. I don't want you to.
Man, he's this painful. He doesn't want to hold off. He wants to buy. He wants to buy, but basically he called his friend who's his accountant or whatever, and he said, "Yeah, I would hold off." Which obviously this guy has zero context. All he got was, "Yeah, these guys they quoted me a bathroom and it's this much money."
Yep.
Do we know, was it a friend that had a bathroom remodel before, or was it literally his accountant saying like, how much money do you have
I don't
access to?
remember.
No, it was his friend that also did accounting. And what he says in here a little bit later on, he's like, "Yeah, and he just built a new house, so he knows what he's talking about."
Yeah, you know what to put in the new
No.
houses.
Right.
Home Depot showers.
That doesn't check out.
I mean, that's a tough one, right? That's
Yeah.
definitely a tough one. But TJ, do you have any advice on how to approach that when you you were close to closing this, like you
Yeah.
were right there
I
on the
know.
finish line, and he
know.
just says, "I gotta call my friend."
Yeah,
Who's his friend?
I think the key would have been to avoid the phone call, right?
Yeah.
If we can just dodge that bullet, which I think goes back to like again the changes that we made in the pricing presentation. That if we would have taken our current method of laying down price and executed it there, I think
sure.
that would have been a done deal. I
Done
think
deal.
it would have
I
been.
think so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really cool to hear. Is like how you present your price makes all the difference in the world.
It's everything.
right?
It's everything.
Like you've tweaked your process over the last couple months to be something different. That now you feel confident that you would have presented it that way. This would have been a done deal.
Well,
Money
and our
money in the
numbers
bag.
bear it out. I think the month I started was March. So in February, the team had I believe it was like a 24% closing rate and had done just under 700,000. In March, we did a 30% close rate with it was 825, I think. In April was 33% and 850, and then this month in May, we hit 34% in our first $1 million month ever.
That's
So
congratulations.
just continuing
That is awesome.
to get better. Yeah, huge celebration. Yeah. So proud of those guys. And this guy, what'd you do? 300,000 in volume? 330, something like that?
Something like that.
That's a good month.
Yeah,
That's a good month.
He's a beast.
It's a good month.
Yeah, no, that's key. But I mean, for anybody out there listening that's at that 20%, 25%, and you're wondering, how do I get to that 30, 35, which is where you really start making money in this type of business, is getting above 30. It really makes a difference how you go over these things. And at the end of the day, I'd say making it simple for the customer. Like, if you boil this down in a nutshell, it's not necessarily software that did it. It's just it's that it was complicated.
Yeah.
Right. It was hard for them to understand. If we can simplify that and make it easy to understand, it's easy to buy, you'll close more deals every day of the week.
My theme and my general philosophy is that I want my presentation, I want to be able to sit in front of a fourth grader and do my presentation and have them understand it.
Yeah, fourth grader would not have understood this.
Yeah, well,
Most of them, I don't know. Some might pull out the calculator and be like, "Yeah, obviously you go with this plan.
Right.
You're gonna save more."
right. Hopefully, at least that fourth grader is probably like, "Ooh, new shower. I don't care what it costs," because
right.
they have no concept of money, right? But that's okay.
It's so
10,000
much
a month
easier when
sounds
you're a
good.
cash buyer.
Right.
Less numbers to go over.
Yeah,
Right. Oh,
that's
yeah,
true.
it is true. But I think that's the key, right? We have to simplify it for finance buyers too,
Absolutely.
and just
Yeah.
make it easy for them as well. Because that's, let's face it, most buyers these days are finance
Yeah.
buyers.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, guys, I appreciate the time. Any last
thank
words of
you.
advice from either of you for our audience that they should keep in mind?
I'll just keep learning, keep getting better. Be a sponge, never stop. That's the only thing I could say.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that's what you started off with saying makes you successful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
TJ?
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments, and we can do what we've done for Window Depot for anybody. Tony Hody Training Consulting, that's what we do, is we help companies grow exactly in that fashion and help change sales pitches and things like that. So contact us anytime, we'll help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, guys, these guys are some of the best in the industry. Like, if you want to present how you heard it here, but 10 times better, and be coached from somebody like TJ, absolutely the guys to reach out to. So really appreciate you guys taking the time
thank you.
to be on. And let's get out there and keep selling. All right, it's time for the score. Company story. Ryan really did make them feel comfortable with the company and got their buy-in early on. For that, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Building value. Ryan was a true expert when it came to the product and made the customer feel that way. When it comes to building value, I'm gonna have to give him a 10 out of 10. Now, the closing sequence is where we fell off a little bit. We didn't stay on track with everything, and we got confused when it came to the financing versus discount options. So that's gonna bring his score down a bit. I can only give him a 3 out of 10 for closing sequence. Overall, that brings Ryan's first call closer score to a 7 out of 10. If you wanna know your first call closing score, leave a comment below or email us at casting@firstcallcloser.com for your chance to be on First Call Closer.